things in your life that you can throw away. That includes people. Whatever it is that you're holding on to, that's eating you alive. And I'm still decades into this thought trying to figure out anything good that comes from pride. I still come up with a zero. If you guys ever come up with anything good that comes from pride, please do let me know. It inevitably leads to downfalls. It inevitably leads to destroyed relationships. It inevitably leads to fill in the blank of whatever negative thing happens. Pride kills us, man. Pride is the thing that stops us from being able to apologize. Pride is the thing that stops us from being able to accept apologies as well. Pride is the thing that stops us from giving people another chance. Pride is the thing that stops you from accepting another chance as well.
You know, pride is bad. Why are people prideful about stuff?
Because we have pride. That's why. Because we do. When we have a person who's giving us like genuine, honest criticism, we should thank that person. We should give them a trophy, buy them dinner, because that person is giving you some insight into yourself so that you don't have to continue making the same mistakes over and over. And it's insight that you could never get on your own. Again, none of us sees the world the way that it is. We see the world the way that we are. And that's true about ourselves as well. So how do we know where that line is between thinking and overthinking then? So what is art?
Something like that.
Well, don't point to something. Tell me what it is.
To me, art is a drawing or like something, just a picture of like of life.
So what about people that sing?
Oh yeah.
Right? This is frustrating. I asked that because I have a good friend of mine. He's a security guard at a Museum of Contemporary Art out in La Jolla. And so he's around contemporary art all day. And he comes home and he talks about it. And he's just like jazzed about it. You know, he's just like, dude, there's this painting and there's this sculpture. And he has like a book that he brought to me one time. And it has all their exhibits in there. And he's fired up about it. And I look at it and I have to stare at this thing really hard sometimes. Just go like, all right, where's the beauty in this? Where's the thing that we think of as being art in this? Like there's one exhibit there it's a clock.
This is a clock.
It's a clock. Yeah, now I might sit there and go like, but is it just a clock? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, I also have to be humble enough to wonder if other people are seeing something that I'm not seeing in it. And he obviously sees something in it. And does he see something in it? Or is he seeing something because he's supposed to see something in it? I know him pretty well. I think he sees something in it. And he talks about it with passion, so, you know, there's at least that. But we've had that conversation before. That's kind of like how we end conversations. He'll ask me, well, then what is art? Forget it. We can't talk about it then, because there is no definition for it. Art's like justice. I couldn't describe it for you, but I know it when I see it. Yeah.
Move on with it.
Yeah. So now we get caught up in that question, like, oh my gosh, but we used protection. Yeah. But how come it didn't work? Now, all of a sudden you put on your scientist glasses and you start going online to find out what the failure rates are and all these things, and you spend all of these hours.
It still happened.
Yeah, it still happened. So now what? Well, hang on, let's find out why this happened. It doesn't matter why it happened.
It happened.
You have to deal with where you are right now. It's kind of like life. At some point in life, we have to eventually give up our hope for a better past. We have to kind of live with where we are, and then we have to live forward, going forward. And it's nice to know sometimes why things happen the way that they happen. Because if we understand why things happen, the goal, hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, legs crossed, hair crossed, we're hoping that we can avoid it in the future. Any of you guys know why you run into trouble in the past? Any of you guys ever really actually stop doing that thing? Yeah. All I do is I just put my head down and I run harder into it. Figuring maybe the problem isn't with what I'm doing, maybe the problem is I haven't slammed it hard enough with my head. No, there's hopefully we can learn from the past. And by the way, we generally do learn from the past. The question is whether or not we act from the past. We learned what we did was wrong. We learned that what we did brought us to certain consequences, but we don't act on it. We can sit back, like I said, we can be scientists about it and just go, understood completely why this happened, and then tomorrow do the exact same thing. Now that's the deeper question, that's the why. And Marcus Aurelius would say, don't demand to know why, just stop doing it. Is your cucumber bitter? Yeah, this is a terrible cucumber. Who would have grown such a cucumber? My goodness, I spent $1 or whatever a cucumber costs on this thing, and it's not fulfilling me. Man, I wish I had some. Yeah, you could sit there and figure out why. You go to the grower now. This cucumber is bitter. What's the pH level of your fertilizers? How often do you irrigate? It's not going to help that cucumber taste any better, though. And all of that time that you spend trying to figure out why the cucumber is bitter, you could have done something else. You could have gotten some other food. I love the briar path. The briars in the path. Are there thorns in your way? Yeah. So what should you do? Obviously,
Walk around.
coward. You go right through them. And you just cut your shit up all over the place. You get to the other end, and you're bleeding, and you're all beaten up, and you're like, but I've learned my lesson. Isn't that a lesson you could have known before Ogre stomping through all the briars? You should have known not to stomp through thorns. So since you knew beforehand, I guess the question becomes, do you really know afterhand now? Or is it just like you've now felt the consequences of it? Because this is what you'll find. Hopefully in your life. Hopefully in your life you get to a briar patch and you see somebody who's on the other end of it, who's all cut up and bleeding, and you can go, I don't want to do that. And you can step around and walk around it. Yeah? But there are these two kinds of people in life. These are the people who say, you know what, I gotta make my own mistakes and just trudge through the briar patch. And then there are people who can say, you know what, I want to let other people make my mistakes for me. And then you can watch them as you go around, whatever those problems are in life. But I like the phrasing of this thing, because that's all you need to know. You don't need to know where it came from. You just need to know that you gotta throw it away or walk around it. And by the way, that's obviously he's not just talking about cucumbers. There are things in your life that you can throw away. That includes people. That includes whatever it is that you're holding on to that's eating you alive. That could be pride. I was just having a talk with someone recently about pride. I know we've had that conversation here before. And I'm still decades into this thought trying to figure out anything good that comes from pride. I still come up with a 0. If you guys ever come up with anything good that comes from pride, please do let me know. But pride, man, it inevitably leads to downfalls. It inevitably leads to destroyed relationships. It inevitably leads to fill in the blank of whatever negative thing happens. Pride kills us, man. Pride is the thing that stops us from being able to apologize. Pride is the thing that stops us from being able to accept apologies as well. Pride is the thing that stops us from giving people another chance. Pride is the thing that stops you from accepting another chance as well. And then I just can't come up with anything good that comes from pride. Yeah.
If you know pride is bad, then why are people prideful about stuff?
Because we have pride. That's why. Because we do. We mistake it. It's just like we were talking about Nietzsche last week, like loyalty. We like to brag about our loyalty to people. Well, what if your friend's a piece of shit? Doesn't matter if my friend, right or wrong. Yeah, but your friend's a piece of shit. How long do you think it's going to be before they turn their back on you? I'm loyal. You're not loyal. You're afraid to stab a friend in the front. You're afraid to if it really is your friend, do you not want the best for your friends? Do you not want the best for the people that you love? Do you not want the people you love to also want the best for you? And so when we have a person who's giving us like genuine, honest criticism, not just shit posting online, but someone who's giving us some real, honest criticism, we should thank that person. We should give them a trophy, buy them dinner, because that person is giving you some insight into yourself, so that you don't have to continue making the same mistakes over and over. And it's insight that you could never get on your own. I mean, I don't know if again, none of us sees the world the way that it is. We see the world the way that we are. And that's true about ourselves as well. Hopefully you have a really good friend around you somewhere who's capable of telling you the truth. And I don't just mean like they're capable of seeing it, but they're also capable of having the courage to tell you the truth. In order to be a friend, you've got to be willing to wage war. To be willing to wage war, you have to be capable of it as well. And waging war can also mean telling your friends the truth. But that's the thing. Can you tell your friends the truth in such a way that you guys can disagree, be angry, and then still be friends? I don't know. It's actually really funny. I was just thinking about this on last Monday. I have a good friend of mine, and we were at the same gym, and I was getting out of my car, and he comes up, and he's like, hey, what's up, Scott? I go, what's up? And he's like, so you good, man? And I said, no, I'm a long way from good. And he's like, so what's up? I had a problem with him. And so I told him, here's my problem with you. And he goes, I can see that. I'm sorry. You're right. I shouldn't have been this way. I apologize. Okay. Give each other a hug. And then we start walking. I go, so did you get out to the surf this weekend? Oh, no, dude, I saw it was big, like 10-foot waves. And the whole argument lasted under a minute. But that's because he and I have formed the kind of relationship where he knows that if I tell him something, that I'm coming from a place of love. I want you to be better. And I understand that he does the same thing to me. He's pulled me aside before, too, and just been like, Scallon, you're being an asshole. I've had students who've done this before. Pulled me aside and been like, dude, you're kind of an asshole today. Like, will I really? I don't think that any of you would tell me that because you want to hurt my feelings, but because you want to make the classroom a better place. I have to appreciate the fact that you have the courage to tell me that, and that you have the love to tell me that, and that you would care enough about this place that you come to be willing to tell me that. But I also understand that that's not a common thing. That's a pretty rare thing. And so if you can find somebody who's willing to give and take that criticism, good on you. And hopefully you have those kinds of friends. But understand that if you don't have that kind of relationship with somebody, instead if you have the relationship with somebody that's just, my friend right or wrong, no matter what they do, then you don't have that friend. What you have is, you have a support system, an extra ego that you have to hang on to because you aren't willing to stand on your own. You'd rather compromise part of who you are, compromise part of your virtue for that sense of safety and security of having a person next to you, which is not a criticism. Oftentimes people think that if you say that, oh, it must be criticizing me. No, it's just a narration of the fact. You know? And of course you're free to disagree, but all we're doing is we're just describing the situation. But even then, your enemies, man, your enemies are going to be some of your best critics, dude. I wonder how many of you are willing to tell your friends something terrible about themselves. Your enemies are really fast to tell you everything that's wrong with you. So maybe it's a good idea to listen to your enemies also, because your enemies are the first ones to notice your flaws. That's why they don't like you, because they see your flaws when you don't. They see the flaws that your friends don't. And that doesn't mean that they're always right. Like, I don't know, I've heard before that I'm an asshole. Of course, that can't be true. It's not me, it's everybody else in the world. Yeah, but, if you have a lot of enemies and they're all saying the same thing, it might be worthwhile to examine yourself and see if what they're saying is true. But that last part, man, don't ask why these things exist. Just go through them. And sometimes you have to. You're dealing with a personality of somebody who's clearly traumatized, clearly has some childhood trauma going on that they're working through. You could sit there and work through it with them. But if they're shooting up the school while they're expressing that childhood trauma, it might be better to stop it first. Stop the shooting first. If you're in an abusive relationship, it might be better to get out of there before trying to analyze the person. Because in the meantime, you're still taking blows. So, how do you know the difference there? That's wisdom. That's wisdom. Knowing the difference. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms?